Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a really significant moment, the 1999 Kargil conflict.
It's significant, all right. And what makes it so, well, jarring is what happened right before it.
Exactly. That whole period felt so hopeful. You had Prime Minister Vajpayee's bus trip to Lahore, a real push for peace, it seemed.
It really did. It felt like maybe, just maybe, things were shifting.
And then, boom, this conflict flares up almost immediately after. It's just such a stark reminder, isn't it, how fast things can turn.
And maybe a lesson that, those first positive signs,
Mm-hmm.
they don't always stick. You need to look deeper.
For sure. And you, listening, might find this particularly relevant today. Diplomacy can be so fragile.
Absolutely. Understanding this specific shift, peace talks 1 minute, military planning the next, it gives you a critical lens on how international relations sometimes operate.
Okay, let's set the scene a bit more. February 1999, Vajpayee goes to Lahore. Big deal. Historic trip.
It wasn't just symbolic either. They actually signed the Lahore Declaration.
Right, and that was a formal pledge, wasn't it? Committing to peace, to keep talking.
And crucially, respecting the line of control of the Lhotse, the kind of de facto border in Kashmir.
There was so much optimism then, a potential breakthrough, people thought.
But here's the kicker, the stark contrast. While all that is happening out in the open, handshakes, declarations.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, elements in the Pakistani military, reportedly under General Pervez Musharraf, were already planning something very different.
You mean the Kargil operation?
Exactly. Preparations were underway to move into the Kargil area, inside India's side of the Lhotse in Ladakh. All very covert.
Wow, so the ink is barely dry on a peace declaration.
And the groundwork for conflict is being laid.
Yeah.
It makes that initial hope feel, well, incredibly bittersweet in hindsight.
No kidding. So February, peace talks. By May, things start looking different on the ground.
Yeah, by May 99, Indian intelligence starts picking up weird signals, unusual movements,
And patrols.
patrols start encountering intruders. But these aren't just a few guys crossing over. They're heavily armed, dug in.
Strategically placed, too, right? On high ridges.
Precisely. It quickly became clear this wasn't some minor infiltration. This was planned, organized, a military operation.
So this is a direct violation of the Lahore Declaration's spirit.
Absolutely. The declaration was meant to build trust, reinforce the Lhotse. This action just shattered that. A massive breach of trust.
To really get what India was up against, you have to picture Kargil itself, the place.
Oh, the terrain is just brutal. Forget conventional battlefields.
We're talking extreme high altitude, right?
Extreme altitude, jagged peaks, howling winds. The roads in are narrow, treacherous.
Just rock and snow mostly.
It's rock, snow, barren landscapes.
Yeah.
And the temperatures.
Yep.
Nights dropping to -20 Celsius.
Yeah.
-4 Fahrenheit. Just unbelievably harsh.
So fighting there is exponentially harder.
Absolutely. And there was this sort of established practice during the deep winter months.
How was that?
Well, because the conditions were so bad, India would often vacate some of its most forward highest posts. It was kind of an unofficial weather-enforced lull.
Ah, okay. And understand.
An unspoken understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
In Pakistan. Well, they used that. They moved in and occupied over 130 of these posts.
130, wow. Along the line of control.
Yep. Across a wide stretch. Key spots like Toling, Tiger Hill, the Dras sector. Really critical positions.
And these positions weren't just random points on a map. They were chosen carefully.
Very carefully. They overlooked National Highway 1A.
Which is the main road connecting Srinagar to Leh, the supply line for Ladakh.
Exactly. The artery. For the military, yes, but also for civilian life up there. Control the heights overlooking NH-1A, and you can basically choke Ladakh.
So militarily, a huge advantage. Cut off supplies, movement.
A textbook move for tactical advantage, seizing the high ground. Diplomatically, though.
A massive risk,
Excellent.
especially right after Lahore.
A huge gamble, putting potential military gains against almost certain diplomatic fallout.
So India's faced with this. They have to respond.
No choice, really. On May 26, 1999, they launched Operation Vijay, the military counteroffensive.
But like we said, this is mountain warfare, high altitude.
Completely different beast. Soldiers having to climb near vertical cliffs, under fire, in thin air.
A physical toll alone.
Immense. And the mental strengths required.
Yeah.
Just extraordinary. Plus, the logistics of supplying troops, evacuating wounded, everything is harder up there.
And the Air Force got involved too.
Yes. Operation Safe Sagar. The Indian Air Force brought in fighter jets, helicopters, trying to hit those bunkers perched high up.
But India made a crucial decision, didn't they? About crossing the loss.
They did. A very significant strategic decision. Despite the fact that Pakistani forces had crossed onto their side, India resolved not to cross the line of control themselves.
So push them back, but don't escalate by crossing over into Pakistani territory.
Exactly. It was a policy of firmness, reclaiming their territory, combined with strategic restraint, trying to contain the conflict geographically.
That must have been a tough call militarily.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But diplomatically, it turned out to be very important later on. It helped shape how the world saw the conflict.
Now, something else really unique about Kargil, the media coverage.
Oh, absolutely. This was a watershed moment. The first war in South Asia, really, to get televised in near real time.
Into people's homes every night. What was that like?
Intense. You had news channels broadcasting directly from the region, reports showing the recapture of peaks like Tololing or Tiger Hill.
And interviews with soldiers?
Yeah, first-hand accounts, sometimes raw, unfiltered. It brought the reality of the fighting home in a way that hadn't happened before.
That must have had a huge impact on public opinion, both in India and internationally.
Definitely. Domestically, it galvanized support. Internationally, as the story unfolded and the nature of the initial intrusion became clearer,
The narrative shifted.
it did. Global opinion largely swung towards India. Pakistan was increasingly seen as the aggressor.
Because they'd violated agreements.
Yes, they were seen as violating the older Simla Agreement, which stressed solving things peacefully, and of course the brand new Lahore Declaration.
Amidst all this, you hear these incredible stories of bravery. Captain Vikram Batra.
A name everyone remembers. His famous line after capturing point 5140, Ya Dil Manj More, this heart wants more, became legendary.
Such confidence, such spirit.
But tragically, he was killed later while trying to save another officer, awarded the Paramveer Chakra, India's highest medal for gallantry, posthumously.
An incredible sacrifice. But he wasn't the only one.
Not at all. You have Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, Major Rajesh Adhikari, Grenadier Yogendra Singh Yadav. So many acts of incredible courage, often involving young officers leading from the front. Their stories are just essential to understanding the human cost.
And it's probably fair to say, though less documented perhaps in the same way, there was bravery on the other side, too.
Absolutely. It's important for a balanced view. Captain Karnal Sher on the Pakistani side, for instance, was awarded their highest honor, the Nishani-e-Haider, also posthumously.
It reminds you, these were soldiers, young men mostly, fighting for their country, for their comrades, not just abstract politics.
Exactly. The human element gets lost sometimes, but it's crucial. Duty, loyalty, fear, courage. It's all there on both sides. It's the tragedy of war.
So as the conflict progresses, India starts retaking territory. What's happening internationally?
The pressure starts mounting, especially on Pakistan, diplomatically.
And the U.S. got involved.
Yes, significantly. President Bill Clinton played a key role. He met with Pakistan's Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, in Washington. This was July 1999.
What was the message?
Pretty blunt, by all accounts.
Yeah.
Clinton essentially told Sharif that Pakistan had to withdraw its forces back behind the line of control immediately.
That must have been difficult for Sharif.
Immensely difficult. He went back to Pakistan facing a lot of criticism, humiliation, especially from within the military establishment who felt let down.
And that had consequences.
Big ones. It fueled the tension between the civilian government and the military, ultimately leading to General Musharraf launching a coup in October 1999.
So the Kargil War directly contributed to a change of government in Pakistan.
Without a doubt. It had huge internal political and military repercussions for Pakistan.
Finally, though, India prevails on the battlefield.
Yes, by July 26, India had regained most of the occupied positions and declared the operation successful.
And that date, July 26, is now remembered.
It is, as Kargil Vijay Diwas. Vijay meaning victory, a day to commemorate the soldiers who died and the success of Operation Vijay.
But victory came at a cost, a heavy cost.
Tremendous cost. Hundreds of lives lost on both sides. And beyond the casualties, that fragile trust built up before Lahore, gone, just evaporated.
So the spirit of Lahore died in the mountains of Kargil.
You could say that. Diplomatic progress stalled again, and the loss of young lives. That's the deepest tragedy, always.
Were there lessons learned, do you think, from Kargil?
You'd hope so. For India, certainly a wake-up call about needing constant vigilance, even during apparent thaws, never letting the guard down on the borders.
And for Pakistan?
Perhaps a lesson about the high price internationally and domestically of military actions that cross established lines and break agreements. The diplomatic isolation was significant.
But the big question, the one that maybe still hangs there, did either side really learn the deeper lesson about prioritizing peace? Truly.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For you, listening, that's something to ponder. The immediate military lessons might be clear, but the long-term commitment to peace, that's often harder to gauge.
So looking back, Kargil feels like more than just a fight over territory.
Much more. It embodies these clashing ideas, really. Trust versus betrayal, diplomacy versus aggression, hope versus, well, heartbreak.
It's a complex story with deep emotional resonance.
Deeply complex. But even in the midst of all that conflict, there were these small, maybe overlooked moments of humanity.
Like what?
Things like letters being exchanged between families of soldiers on opposite sides, facilitated sometimes by the armies, the dignified return of fallen soldiers' bodies, small gestures of respect amidst the fighting.
Reminders that beyond the uniforms and borders...
There's a shared humanity. It doesn't erase the tragedy,
Yeah,
but it adds another layer, another perspective.
absolutely. Well, that was a heavy but important deep dive.
It certainly was.
And on that note, for our next deep dive, we're actually going to shift gears quite dramatically from conflict to connection.
Welcome shift.
We'll be exploring the unifying power of music, art, and culture across borders. Specifically, we want to dive into the sounds of the sitar and the incredible ghazals of the legendary Ghulam Ali.
Oh, wonderful. A reminder that even when politics divides, culture often connects. Those threads are strong.
Exactly. How art can sometimes bridge divides that politics can't or won't.
It offers a different kind of dialogue, doesn't it?
It really does. So please join us next time as we explore those artistic connections. Until then, let's keep crossing lines, not to divide, but hopefully to understand each other a bit better.
This is The Deep Dive. Thank you for joining this exploration.
Exploring the complexities of history reminds us of our shared humanity and the ongoing pursuit of peace.